opened, what was clicked, what ran in the background. All of it. The BSI team needs to figure out 3 things. Is this a major attack? Yes. What are the hackers after? Probably stealing data. And are they still inside? Very much so. The team doesn't hesitate. They shut down the entire network. From the outside, it looks like someone just ripped the plug out of the wall. Claudia watches her computer power off like it has a mind of its own, like it's haunted. She half expects the lights to flicker next. That same day, Der Spiegel broke the story, the first media outlet to report on the cyber attack. Politicians found out from the news, not from internal channels. From that moment on, chaos took over. Lawmakers were furious. No one could work properly. No emails, no access to documents, no reports. And this isn't a movie. You don't just kick the hackers out and move on. The network is giant, messy, and hard to control. The response team had to fight their way through it, trying to stop any further data theft and wrest back control. It took weeks to clean the system. During that time, MPs and their staff could only use certain parts of the network. No one knew if the hackers were still reading their emails. Important notes were suddenly written down by hand again, just to stay safe. The Bundestag's IT security was clearly overwhelmed. It faced intense criticism in the months after. When the dust finally settles, the investigation into the perpetrators begins, and the trail points to Russia right from the start. On Claudia Heid's computer, investigators find malware called X-Tunnel. X-Tunnel functions like a real tunnel, a direct continuous link that allows attackers to access the network whenever they want. Inside the code, analysts uncover connections to a server believed to be used by a group known as APT-28. APT stands for Advanced Persistent Threat. It's a label used for hacker groups that are not only highly skilled, but also extremely patient. The kind of intruders who don't just strike and vanish, but stay deeply embedded, sometimes for years. By all accounts, APT-28 is a Russian group, and it also goes by another name, Fancy Bear. Fancy Bear operates under the GRU, Russia's military intelligence service. The group is notorious. This is where they work, in what's known as the Aquarium in Moscow. No one knows who they really are. No names, no faces, not even how many of them exist. But one thing is clear. They do whatever it takes. They'll stop at nothing, not even the computer of the sitting German chancellor. Ironically, it's there, in that highly sensitive office, where one of the hackers slips up. They managed to break into a computer in Angela Merkel's outer office, her personal machine, her inbox. It's exactly what they were after. To extract the emails, one of the hackers writes a custom program. The tool is designed to copy her Outlook inbox and send that copy to a server they control. The program is called VSC.exe. But there's a problem. While coding, the hackers make a mistake. To locate and extract the files, VSC.exe needs to follow a specific file path, and that path includes the words Abgeordnetenbüro. But the program doesn't recognize the German U. Instead, the character shows up as a garbled symbol, a question mark followed by RO, so the program can't find the folder. For a moment, the entire operation stumbles over the quirks of the German language. Realizing the attack might be exposed at any moment, the hackers panic a little. Under pressure, they decide to rewrite the code. This time, they tell the program, expect German, expect that U. Then they try again. And this time, it works. The tool successfully copies the inbox and sends it out. It's not Merkel's correspondence from the Chancellery, but still a huge win for the attackers. But the hackers messed up. Maybe from the rush, maybe out of nervousness. In the code of the program, investigators later discover a critical detail. The hacker forgot to delete the name of the computer he was working on. The path reads C users Scaramouche. Scaramouche is a clown-like character from Italian theater. People might also recognize the name from Bohemian Rhapsody.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
That's the hacker's alias, his handle. In secret, Scaramouche and his team become high-priority targets. The Federal Public Prosecutor's Office opens an investigation on suspicion of espionage. Angela Merkel later calls it an act of hybrid warfare. But publicly, the German government keeps quiet at first. No accusations, no pointing fingers. In total, around 16 gigabytes of data is believed to have been stolen from the Bundestag network, though no one knows for sure. 16 gigabytes doesn't sound like much, right? Just an old USB stick. But in context, it's a lot. especially if we're talking only emails. 16 gigabytes contains a staggering amount of information. Is that really the end of the world, though? A little espionage here and there, business as usual. Sure, they stole some files, but what could they really do with that? Then came the US presidential election in 2016. Putin's bears shows what they're really capable of.
The Clinton campaign won't confirm or deny the veracity of any of the emails posted by WikiLeaks.
What lines they're willing to cross, and just how much chaos a few gigabytes can unleash.
Chapter 2. The Orange.
In mid-2015, Donald Trump announces his candidacy. At first, no one really takes him seriously. But because he's so different, so unfiltered, saying things no one else would dare, the media can't stop talking about him.
And Mexico will pay for the wall.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
One outrageous statement after the next dominates the headlines.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS.
There's public outrage, disbelief, and widespread support for him.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
By early 2016, Trump is no longer the oddball outsider. He's now the Republican frontrunner, going head-to-head with Democrat Hillary Clinton. Half a world away, in the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin is watching closely. He doesn't like Hillary Clinton, not one bit. The two have history. Back in 2011, Clinton was the US Secretary of State when Russia held national elections. She publicly questioned whether the vote had been rigged, and massive protests followed across the country. Putin accused the US of stirring up those demonstrations. He never forgave her for that. Politically, she had been one of his toughest opponents for years. Later, the European Court of Human Rights confirmed that the 2011 Russian election was in fact manipulated. Putin clearly is rooting for the other guy, the loud billionaire. Trump, for his part, has repeatedly praised Putin in the past. He sees Putin as a strong leader, someone he thinks he could get along with as president. So Putin consults with his 3 intelligence agencies and makes a call. March 19, 2016, an email lands in the inbox of John Podesta, Clinton's campaign manager. The message looks like a standard Google security alert, something about suspicious activity and a prompt to reset the password. But Podesta double-checks with an IT staffer at the DNC to be sure. Unfortunately, the staffer replies that the email is legit, when he actually meant the opposite, just one typo with massive consequences. Podesta assumes the message is safe, clicks the link, and enters his login on a fake site. That's it. The hackers are in. They now have access to internal communications, emails, and nearly everything tied to the campaign. They're part of Fancy Bear, the same group tied to the Bundestag hack. They steal 50,000 of Podesta's emails. The tactic is known as phishing, casting bait and waiting for a bite. Spear phishing more specifically, as it's tailored to a specific person. With the same approach, Fancy Bear targets 300 more people inside Clinton's campaign. No one knows how many fell for it. In early April, they go after another key target, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, a central player in the Democratic election machine. Using more convincingly real-looking emails, they managed to steal the credentials of at least one DCCC employee. And just like that, they're in again. Once inside, Fancy Bear uses 2 main types of malware, X-Agent and X-Tunnel. The latter is the same tool used in the attack on Claudia Heid's computer in Berlin. While digging through the DCCC, the hackers find something even more valuable. Credentials that let them slip into the Democratic National Committee, DNC, the heart of the party. There, they uncover detailed documents on campaign strategy, including a file on Trump full of potentially damaging information. In early May, the intrusion is finally detected. The DCCC and the DNC hire a cybersecurity firm to clean house, a process that will stretch all the way into October. But the Democrats should have discovered the hackers much sooner. In a small, unremarkable office in Moscow, another set of hackers is quietly at work. This group is known as Cozy Bear, most likely working under the SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence service. They've been inside the Democrats' network since June 2015, far longer than Fancy Bear. As strange as it sounds, Cozy and Fancy Bear probably weren't even aware of each other. They had different bosses, didn't talk, didn't collaborate. Cozy Bear is known for being quiet and methodical, targeting all kinds of institutions without leaving much of a trace. But this time, someone's watching them. In 2014, Dutch intelligence pulled off an incredible hack. They gained access to surveillance cameras in the very building where Cozy Bear operates. They're literally watching the hackers at work. That's how they realize Cozy Bear is crawling through the DNC's systems. So the AIVD warns the American counterparts early on. That warning eventually reaches the FBI. By September 2015, an agent in Washington calls the DNC to let them know Russian hackers are inside their systems. But the warning goes nowhere. The call lands with lower-level IT staff and is more or less ignored. Senior leadership at the DNC later claimed they didn't even know about it at the time. The hackers could have been discovered much earlier. If anyone had looked more closely at Cozy Bear, they likely would have seen Fancy Bear too. And if that had happened, the summer of 2016 might have unfolded quite differently. But it didn't. Back to spring 2016, Fancy Bear launches a website, dcleaks.com, and starting in June, they begin dropping bombshell after bombshell. They invent a fake identity, Guccifer 2.0, a supposed Romanian lone wolf behind all the leaks. Guccifer gets a blog, reaches out to journalists, and offers up stolen files. The DNC hack dominates the headlines. It becomes breaking news on TV. Suddenly, internal dirt from within the Democratic Party, rumors, backroom deals, tensions is out in the open. It's a major blow to Hillary Clinton's campaign. The emails appear to show the DNC clearly favoring Clinton over Bernie Sanders, even though they were supposed to stay neutral. There's content about what she earned for Wall Street speeches, and even an alleged anti-Catholic bias. Trump jumps on the scandal. At a rally, he famously says,
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
At that point, Clinton is already under pressure over her use of a private email server while serving as Secretary of State. The FBI confirms she also deleted private emails from that account, which makes people believe that she's hiding something. Trump seizes the moment, tying that controversy to the flood of new leaks. That very same day, Fancy Bear sends 76 spear phishing emails to Clinton's staff. The impact of the leaks on Clinton's campaign is huge, maybe not the deciding factor, but they definitely give Trump a boost, over and over again. What started as chaos turned into something more focused, a clear attempt to help Donald Trump. Just over a month before Election Day, the hackers hand over John Podesta's emails to WikiLeaks. And then, week after week, those emails are released strategically, some more dramatic than others, but all grabbing headlines. The constant drip of leaked material creates a lasting impression. Something shady is going on inside the Democratic Party. Clinton loses momentum. She's forced to shift her message and constantly defend herself, in the press and directly against Trump in public debates. The leaks are part of something bigger. Fancy Bear is supported by a digital army of trolls, for example, operating out of this building in St. Petersburg. They flood social media with manipulated content and polarizing posts. Some even succeed in organizing real-life protests across multiple US cities. Hillary Clinton loses. Donald Trump becomes president. It's nearly impossible to measure how much influence the hacks and disinformation had, whether they tipped the scales. But many experts like Kathleen Hall-Jamieson agree they had an impact. Russia, to some extent, successfully interfered with the 2016 US election. It's widely seen as the most effective hack and leak operation ever pulled off. Steal data, release it strategically, and fan the flames of chaos. The idea that states spy on each other isn't new, but taking that intelligence and throwing it into the public to deliberately sway an election, that's something else entirely. If hackers can get their hands on internal data, release it at the perfect moment, and shape public opinion, what does that mean for the future of democracy? If a foreign power can mess with the core of another country's democratic process, that's not just hacking, that's destabilization. And it's part of a broader pattern made to erode public trust in democratic institutions. Democracies are at a disadvantage in this fight. A dictatorship can flood the internet with state media, bots, fake accounts, leak operations, and watches the public sphere in open society fragments and turns against itself. Meanwhile, inside the authoritarian regime, nothing wobbles. Dissent is crushed quickly and publicly. The United States only realizes what just happened after the elections have already passed. The CIA, FBI, and NSA compile their findings in a highly classified report. In early 2017, a redacted version is released to the public. One sentence stands out as especially alarming. We assess that Moscow will apply lessons learned from its campaign aimed at the US presidential election to future influence efforts worldwide. The sheer aggression and scale of these cyber operations, especially in the US, opens many people's eyes. They realize this isn't just spying, it's sabotage. In Germany, alarm bells start ringing too. There's a federal election coming up in 2017. What does all of this mean for them? Then a new website pops up, btleaks.com. BT like Bundestag, just like dcleaks.com. Suddenly, everyone is on edge. Variations like btleaks.org start appearing too. German authorities notice that someone is registering these sites, and panic starts to set in. Is the world about to see a repeat of the US playbook? In early May 2017, Angela Merkel travels to Russia for the first time since the Bundestag hack. She meets Putin at his summer residence in Sochi. There, she confronts him. Putin insists that Russia never interferes in the internal affairs of other nations. Merkel replies firmly, "I assume that German parties will handle their election campaigns among themselves." A clear warning, stay out. In the end, the 2017 German election isn't rocked by any major leaks. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened to the stolen 16 gigabytes from the Bundestag hack. There's never been a single public leak directly tied to that data. But then again, maybe there doesn't need to be. Maybe the information was used in some other way, quietly, tactically. Meanwhile, the hunt for Scaramouche continues. It'll be a while before his identity is finally confirmed. Freaks aren't so lucky.
Chapter 3. The Cleaning Crew.
April 10th, 2018. A passenger plane from Moscow lands at Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands. Among the passengers, 4 Russian men. They look like typical business travelers. Alexei Minin and Oleg Sotnikov, both in their 40s, seem cheerful. Behind them walk 2 younger men, Yevgeny Sebryakov and Alexei Morenits. According to their passports, they're diplomats. A sharply dressed man from the Russian embassy meets them in arrivals and escorts them out of the airport. But they aren't here on official duty. They're part of a special unit, trained to carry out covert foreign operations. Minin and Sotnikov handle reconnaissance. Serebyakov and Morenits are the hackers. They rent a small car and drive to The Hague. They stop at an electronics store to buy a heavy-duty 12-volt battery and a charger, then check into a hotel. The next day, Minin heads to OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. That's an international body that investigates chemical weapons use and checks compliance with global conventions. The OPCW has just finalized its report on a high-profile case. Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found unconscious on a bench in Salisbury, UK, after being poisoned with Novichok, a nerve agent developed in Russia. The OPCW report confirms the British findings. Minin scouts the site. He photographs the OPCW building and the Marriott Hotel next door. 2 days later, April 13th, the group plans to strike. Time is short. What they don't realize is that they're being watched. From the moment they set foot into the country, they've been under surveillance by the Dutch Military Intelligence Service, MIVD. For the original version of this documentary, we interviewed a senior MIVD official. Due to rights restrictions, we had to cut those segments from this adaptation. He couldn't help but grin when describing their transport, a rather small car for a bunch of guys, tightly cramped in there. The agency follows them closely, but how did they even know to look for them? Apparently, the MIVD received intelligence that members of APT-28 would be flying in. Fancy bear again. According to The Guardian, the original tip may have come from British intelligence. April 13th, the operation begins. The 4 men drive to the Marriott Hotel and park close to the OPCW building. The car's rear faces the compound. The trunk is packed with equipment. The battery and a voltage regulator power a computer, which is connected to a laptop in the front. Serebryakov and Morenets use it to execute the hack. The key component is a flat panel Wi-Fi antenna hidden under a jacket, connected via USB. It mimics the OPCW's real Wi-Fi network. Devices inside might auto-connect, believing it's legit. Once they connect, the hackers can steal credentials. With those, they could slip into the OPCW's internal network. The likely goal, steal or undermine the Skripal findings, or discredit the organization through a leak. But they don't get that far. Dutch authorities move in. 2 unmarked vehicles roll quietly onto the lot. Then, sudden action. Doors fly open. The 4 men are taken down. One tries to destroy his phone, kicking it repeatedly, but fails. Then comes the search. There's a plastic bag filled with trash from their hotel room. beer cans, receipts, a half-hearted attempt to cover their tracks. Also, 20,000 euros and $20,000 in crisp bills. Most incriminating of all, a taxi receipt in Morinense's bag, documenting a ride from the GRU barracks to the airport on the day of departure. The team's devices tell an even bigger story. One phone was activated just the day before their trip. Its first signal pinged a tower right next to the GRU headquarters. The laptops reveal a broader mission trail. Serebiokov had been in Lausanne in 2016, likely targeting the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Breaking news out of Lausanne, Switzerland, where Russia has been handed a 4-year ban by the World Anti-Doping Agency.
In December 2017, he was in Kuala Lumpur, where he reportedly tried to hack the Malaysian police, the agency then investigating the MH17 plane crash.
Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 crash-landed in eastern Ukraine.
That flight was brought down by a Russian-made missile over eastern Ukraine, and the team wasn't planning to stop at the OPCW. They had train tickets from Utrecht to Bern, Switzerland, likely headed for the Spies laboratory, which was also analyzing Novichok. Sometimes hackers need to get physically close to their targets. Sending phishing emails isn't enough.